Hey guys, Karen from Curl House, and I have conditioner in my hair. As you can see, I'm in the hair salon. About 5 minutes ago, I had 2 cornrows in my hair. I just got my hair done about 3 days ago in 2 cornrows, no hair added, just all my hair. And again, it's only been 3 days, and I took out those 2 braids because guess what? They were too tight around the back part of my hair, right around my nape. So I'm a trichologist. I am all about healthy hair and scalp. I see all the time what tight hairstyles do to our edges. I'm all about saving our edges, keep our hair. I know what tight styles do. So I am keeping it real. It happens to me too. But the difference is I know what to do about it. So what I did, I came to the hair salon so that I could take those braids out. Because when your braids are too tight, and not just braids, any style that's too tight, it can be 2-strand twists, it can be a sew-in where the hair is braided. When the braids are too tight, it pulls on your hair follicle. And when it pulls on the hair follicle, you get inflammation. So that's what you see on my scalp. You see those bumps? Yeah, they look disgusting, right? Yes, my hair follicle is inflamed. And when that happens, the inflammation happens first, which is also called folliculitis, inflammation of the follicle. And if it stays inflamed continually, it will lead to traction alopecia, which is hair loss. Traction alopecia is alopecia due to too much trauma or tension on the hair follicle. So traction, trauma or tension, alopecia means hair loss. Traction alopecia is a temporary type of hair loss, but it can become permanent, okay? So, for example, I had the braids in. I have the folliculitis. I don't have hair loss, but if I continue to wear the braids over and over again, if I continue to get the inflammation because braids were too tight, then eventually that may lead to permanent hair loss, which is one of the #1 reasons that I immediately took my braids out when I realized they were too tight. And the indication that they were too tight are the bumps that I have on the back of my scalp. So it's only been 3 days since I had my hair done. Now the difference is sometimes when you get your hair done, when you get your hair in braids, it may not hurt. It may feel fine. That's what happened to me. I got my hair braided. My scalp felt fine. It did not hurt when my stylist does it. I do know my scalp. I do not get my hair braided a lot because my scalp is sensitive, but I thought 2 braids, I can handle it. But just like if you get in a car accident, and I know I was hit from behind once, and at the accident, as soon as the accident happened, I felt fine. But about 2 or 3 days later, my shoulders started hurting, my back started hurting. It's the very same thing when you get tight braids or tight styles. When the stylist does the hairstyle, it may feel fine, but a lot of times, if it's too tight or if it's too tight for your scalp, you may not notice it until a few days later. Very same thing, and that is what happened to me. I noticed it a few days later. The back of my hair started to feel super, super tender, and then I started to feel the bumps. So I'm gonna give you 3 things that you need to do if this happens to you. 3 things, because I want us to save our edges. So I want you to do this. If this happens to you, if you get braids and your braids are so tight that you have folliculitis, inflammation, it could be in the front, it could be in the back, the very first thing you do, #1, is to take out the hairstyle. That is #1. Remove the braids. I know you're like, oh no, Karen, I can't do that. I spent all this money on this braids. It took 5 hours for me to get the braids in. I can't take my braids out. Yes, you can, because what is that hairstyle going to actually cost you? You may have spent $200 to get your hair done, but it may cost you so much more if those tight braids lead to permanent hair loss. That's why I encourage you to remove the braids. Or if it's just one braid that's too tight, if it's not your whole head, if it's just one braid, then remove that braid. But if your entire head feels really, really tight, and if you have inflammation like I do, then take the braids out. That is the first thing that you do. You are removing the trauma. You're removing the thing that's causing the inflammation in the first place, the braid. That's the first thing you do. Number 2, apply a plant-based botanical aid product and oil that is going to reduce the inflammation. So one example, sometimes people put tea tree. Tea tree is great for reducing inflammation. Tea tree oil, for example, if you use tea tree oil, I suggest that you mix it with a carrier oil like a coconut oil or olive oil. What I use are the follicle stimulating growth drops, which are full of botanicals that include rosemary, lavender, nettle, many, many more botanicals that help to reduce the inflammation. And applying the growth drops will also help to stimulate growth in the area that was inflamed. As soon as I wash this conditioner out my hair, I will be applying these follicle stimulating growth drops every day until that inflammation starts to decrease. And it absolutely will start to decrease. Now, the third thing that you do is start to massage that area where you have inflammation. Now, this is of course after a week or so, after that tenderness starts to subside. Then use your fingers and start to massage the areas where you had that inflammation, because you want to make sure that you are increasing blood flow to that area so that your hair will regrow normally. So ladies, it is so important that we save our edges. I am so passionate about this, and I always use myself. I do not tell you to do something that I would not do myself. So I hope these 3 tips will encourage you to save your edges. And if you are experiencing traction alopecia, which again is hair loss due to trauma or tension on your hair, remove the braids or remove the hairstyle first. Apply some type of product to your scalp that's going to help to reduce the inflammation. It could be tea tree, it could be the follicle stimulating growth drops. And then 3, massage the area where you had the hair loss or where you had the inflammation to increase blood flow to that area. And let me just give you number 4. Do not go back into a protective style for a few weeks or even a few months until that area has completely healed. I hope these tips helped you to save your edges during this season. And until we talk again, stay fabulous.